Take one, my friends. My first words of the day to you on this Friday. Big happy Friday at last. We're crossing the finish line here. Welcome back, Artist Journal, July 25th, 2025. On a mission, taking no prisoners. We're going forward. We are taking this forward. Welcome back. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. So it continues. You know what was hilarious about this piece? Nuv 1914 out of Argentina. Gorgeous. And you know what's funny? I was putting the show together. I was kind of trying to figure out what to start with, and then I came across the thumbnail. You know, it was literally this big, and I thought, thank you, Nuv. Boom. Thank you, Nuv. We have our headline here for the newspaper, The Imagination. Thank you, Nuv 1914. Out of Argentina, a wonderful talent who we've been delightfully following here. Must be at least a couple of years. Is a little slow to appreciate Nuv's work. I mean, if you've been watching the show, and let's say you're new, it's one of those artists where you might start going, I just don't know. Like, what is this? As I always say here, it's kind of a classic art kind of discussion word, you know, to works that are what you considered like that you like, but that are not easy, you know, challenging. As I always say with Nuv 1914, a challenging artist, and that's why I was slow. Like, and they become some of your favorites. Like I show almost everything that Nuv does here. I had her on the Spaces actually back when we were doing the Spaces. We may do it again at some point, but first things first. Not yet, though. But anyways, so let's look at this work here. Let's look at the title, Para el Recuerdo. So I kind of really like, I assume this is Spanish, and I assume it always is. It's part of this rare Accomparts show, edition of 1. I kind of like how Nuv always uses Spanish as well. I think it fits with this, you know, what I'd call a very international digital art scene. You could argue, actually, this scene that's, you know, largely Tezos-based, you know, it's probably the most international art scene in the world. Now, you might go, oh, but what about, you know, these places? And then you go, oh, but what about everything that happens at Basel, right? Everything that happens in Paris, everything that happens in New York, everything that happens in London. You're going, yeah, is that the most international on a quantifiable basis? You know, where are the artists coming from? It's an interesting question. Who knows? But probably a function of the lack of gatekeeping. And it's quite interesting just on that point before we take a closer look here at this gorgeous work. It's the color that just screamed at me. The lack of gatekeeping. You know, as we've discussed here before, Objkt hit, I think, there is a paradigm for keeping things open, but keeping things, you know, I'm tempted to use the word classy for lack of better, but where you still control the curation on the homepage, so you don't just get anything and everything showing up on your homepage, and then what happens to your, you know, image as a digital art platform. So I think Objkt has hit the sweet spot where it's open. Anybody can mint, and they're on Tezos, which, you know, keeps it very cheap, 20 cents, maybe, if that. But then you curate the homepage, right? And so and even if it's not even necessarily to keep things, it's to keep things almost consistent. So if you're going to go, you know, over classy, let's call it consistent, where you're going, okay, we're not going to have chaos on the homepage, so people show up and just go, this is a visual mess. It's visually incoherent. You can provide visual coherence on your homepage and on whatever special pages, and they even have their galleries, which are basically curations of a sort. We have a new show coming, actually. I don't know. I think we can announce it. Tornado Rodriguez, the Pocobelli collection on the Tezos blockchain. We're going to put some Tornado works. I'm trying to figure out, we want to put them on chain. If anybody knows how to do that with a gallery, or if it's been done, I'm trying to figure that out. I emailed Objkt. I'm waiting to hear back from their person. Maybe they're on vacation. Yeah, so all to say. Anyways, so there is a sweet spot, is what I'm trying to say here. And it's an important topic because what it does is it does provide a kind of fairness where everybody can play on the same playing field on when you have it open, but then a curated homepage, right? And then you say, oh, well, I'm never on the homepage. Well, I don't know if I have been on the homepage, I believe, once. But it's like, but I get out there and get on video 3 times a week, 400 shows later. So there are options, all to say, but we're all on the same playing field as far as, hey, you show up, you're on the same, platform as Yuri J and Zozo and Haiti Rocket and the Kurt Hustle Collective. Arguably, like one of the most brilliant, my favorite video artists in the world, blockchain or not. Like, I'm never having that much fun. I'm not having as much fun as I'm having watching their work. We'll get to Nuv in a second. When I go out to usually I'm actually kind of like, can we go now to whoever I'm with if we're looking at video? I go, okay, I've seen 10 seconds of this and I got to run because I'm going to, because I don't have patience for most video art. Whereas, so all to say, okay, let's look at Nuv. So I would say the very huge standout here is the color. And so a classic flower work, floral arrangement, floral work, bouquet. There must be a word for this. Floral painting. Shall we just look quickly? Let us look very quickly. Word for floral painting. We should really know this. Google flower painting, referred to as a flower painting, botanical, or still life. I guess it's a still life. I thought there'd be something for something that's flower specific. So gorgeous. So Nuv has made many floral, let's call them just still lifes of flowers in the past. This one really, again, jumps out. And I think it's this combination of these very subtle colors, almost metallic colors that we see in the background. You see the green, you see the blue, you see almost this metallic violet. You see this kind of metallic brown, beige brown, metallic gray. These kind of gradients. Interestingly. Now, the flowers are executed gorgeously, I have to say, or just, it's almost tempting to say masterfully. And you see it almost looks like a mouse here, doesn't it? These strokes. Doesn't that look like a mouse? It makes you wonder if the whole thing is made with a mouse. I didn't ask her in the space, but I think I would. What is your main tool? I think she works on a laptop. Actually, I think I did ask. And we had a lot of laughter. If memory serves, she uses the trackpad, like the finger painting, like the trackpad on the laptop. I believe she uses that. We did talk about it. If I'm not mistaken, that is actually, because I believe we had a pretty good laugh about that, actually, which was pretty amazing. You gotta love in here as well. Like this to me, all of this kind of what look like accidental things, this is the equivalent, aesthetically speaking, of paint drops, falling as the paint, as you're painting, and then you get the randomness of the paint drops falling. What's interesting about it, I went to a show on Wednesday, that great show at Kristen Hjellerdy gallery of that artist. I think it's Joachim Lambert, perhaps, Lembrecht. And what's interesting, though, about the drip is you have seen it, and it was masterfully done. Loved the show. But what's interesting about it is when I saw the drips, and again, masterfully done, but then I was like, there was nothing kind of, and the paintings themselves, I'd argue, are new, but in the drip itself, I wasn't like it's an aesthetic trope that I've just experienced a million times, as many of you have. So what's kind of nice about this is it's kind of different. We get it's the same, you might say, aesthetic dynamic where it looks like randomness, kind of chance, perhaps what's going on here, but with new kind of, new kinds of textures, shall we say, new imprints, so to speak, new visual, new visual outcomes, for lack of better term, here, rather than paint drips. And perhaps a function of the medium. Of course, being a digital medium, a screen-first medium, one could argue, or work here. And so over here, and these are trademark, actually, these little things. Again, if this is the first time you've seen a NUV, you might go, what's the big deal? If it's the 400th NUV 1914 you're seeing, you're going, ooh, this is gorgeous. Very nice little lines here. Love how she did that here. And also finally. So we also have these, what you might call the frame trope, but removed from the frame and turned into almost like columns of a sort. Still in effect framing the device, the subject matter, this bouquet, but kind of unhinged, you might say, from the edge of the frame, almost divorcing itself from the frame as a framing tool. And kind of now you're like, well, is it a column? Is it part of a window that's just kind of abstracted? Final point on that. The color. You see the one on the left is kind of like gray. This is kind of like a greenish one. I think they're different colors. Maybe it's just me. But the one on the right looks slightly more green, but that could be a function. Maybe they're gray. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like a different color. That could be an optical illusion, though, is what I'm saying here. Final part, this looks like 9x16, doesn't it? This looks like it was made for a TV frame, interestingly. So again, these kind of limitations or a kind of outcome that is being predetermined and then building around a preferred outcome. One assumes. I just assume. So gorgeous work here. Not a typical size, you might say, for NUV 1914. Here's another one. This was picked up by Mr. Bezold, John Bezold, for 50 Tezos. No habeas pomus. I'm actually going to be on John's podcast. We did an interview just last week, I think last Friday. So that was a fun interview. It was long, like an hour and a half, and that'll be out, I think, late August, early September. Very cool podcast there, so I'm looking forward to that. I will mention it when it comes out. Here's another one by NUV. And here, you're almost starting to wonder, is this almost like a photograph, but it's not? Is this almost like collage? But I think it's actually a very in-depth, because you can still kind of. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure if this rose, if they are painted in, or if they are collage that's being done here, that's being inserted here in order to trick the eye, which is a fun thing to do, to trick the viewer, to make the viewer wonder, right? There are different ways of doing this. Like, I remember I did a series, I probably talked about this, related images. Well, maybe I can bring it up quickly. We'll see if I can bring it up quickly. So this is edition of 50 Tezos, so very reasonable. Let's just see very quickly here on this Friday if I did some physicals way back when. They're not here. Maybe they're in the news. Let me just show you a fun thing about tricking the eye. I worked on colored paper. As you see here, actually, here's some colored paper, but even earlier, let me just go and we'll see if we can find it. If not, we will continue. And I think it's coming. And finally, let's just do one more if it's not here. But basically what I would do is I'd work on colored paper. Okay. No, this is older. It was physical, and I would color the edges. I'll find it hopefully next show. And I would color the edges. I'd work on brown paper, and then I'd color the edges to make it, and then I'd print on it, and then I'd paint on it, and then I'd color the edges white with white marker to make it look like it was a white piece of paper, which was hilarious because in a sense, it just kind of confused the viewer. And I think, and I wonder to myself, is this a similar game that NUV 1914 is playing here with that rose? I'm not sure, but it wouldn't surprise me. NUV always tries new things. So anyways, gorgeous work to get us started on our Friday here. Only one comment here. Moda MT, great words, Adrian. A pleasure to be in your show. Thank you, friend. Well, thank you. And actually, we have another one by Moda MT. Thank you for the comment. Much appreciated. Keeping us from 0 comments there on YouTube. Let's look on X. Nice response here. Thank you with the Kurt Hustle Collective. Those brilliant artists. Tai Mei, love this episode. Please make Taiwan as one of your nomad stops who got widespread 5G, fast internet, and very affordable price. Even though I've got YouTube Premium, but I don't really mind watching ad to support a creator like you. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I may take off a couple of shows next week in order to actually set up a Substack. So let's see, but I'm starting to think just a little mini summer break for me, even a week. I will announce it on X either way, but just so I can set something up, because I'm always juggling the content and then actually trying to do things to support the show from a financial point of view and just promote it. So anyways, thank you, Tai Mei. Great to hear from Taiwan. Again, a very international situation here. Here's Canik Zapata, I believe out of Brazil. The mirror kit in Objkt with music is a real piece of art. I actually brought it back up because we only had, I think, like 2 seconds of that. And so there's another one too. So we're going to take another look at that. Thank you for highlighting that, Canik Zapata, and I totally agree. Lance, thank you for featuring my work. I definitely see this piece as inherently digital. I believe that was the abstract that was going across. I often sample colors directly from the images I'm working with as if they're still wet oil painted. Oh no, I think that's the one with the brush work across with the very digital brush. I often sample colors directly from the images I'm working with as if they're still wet oil paintings. This is kind of a fun thing to do, actually. Fluid and capable of being, as if they're still wet oil paintings, fluid and capable of being manipulated. Yeah, very cool work, very original work. David Lockhart, what a show. So many wins, perfect loop, and Haiti Rocket are killing it. Boom, cheers. Great to hear from you, David, and thanks again for the portrait and the support. And JNK, thank you so much for the spotlight and kind words, Pocobelli. This is much and always appreciated. So they're on vacation. Well, great to hear from you guys. JNK, just an absolute pleasure. The geniuses really behind this, you know, the funnest video art and the most relevant. You know, for me personally, who is not a video art expert, but for me personally, like, I mean, this, if you say, who's your favorite video artist? Well, definitely a huge contender. Okay, Kurt Hustle Collective. Much, much love. Great to hear from you there, too. It's a cereal bowl and the gecko. The dinosaur at the start. You know what my favorite part of that is? When he starts the very first second where he's like, yes. Yeah, there. Anyways, let's continue. Mr. Bazold. You're crazy as an artist if you're not on Tezos. Quoting the show, if you ask me, and I've kind of said that for 400 shows here. It is kind of true. If you are an artist on the blockchain and you're not putting art on Tezos, it's just kind of a gigantic missed opportunity, isn't it? So thank you for highlighting that, Mr. Bazold. Glad it resonated. LFG, love from Gaia. Hey, Retro Manny, you've got a mention here at 3035. Thank you for highlighting that. 1,000 Lands, thanks for the mention. Best art is on Objkt.com for sure. Yeah, you see all the Objkt.com tabs here. As ever. It's usually like 75-80%. And I'm chain agnostic, you know, but I mean, the notifications on Objkt do help, even though I still struggle bringing them up. And them resetting every time I click on them, but nevertheless, does make a difference. Thank you for the comment, 1,000 Lands. We have another work by you. I think it's like a Tezos plane. Gorgeous work. Nostalgia Unlimited, thanks for the shout out. And ending with Gone Fishing is perfect. Indeed. I might have to go fishing myself here in Berlin. Acid Boy, thanks, man. Great to hear from the master of psychedelic abstraction, Acid Boy. And KOS, is that a new personal best journal-wise? I'm not sure. Is this, I think it might be. Sometimes, you know what's kind of sad? Because of all the AI accounts, you really have to, I just don't know if this is AI or not. Anyways, thank you. I don't think it's a personal best, but thank you. I hope you thought it was, sir. Zed Laser, enjoying the show, posting in the community, discovering mind-blowing artists. That's it. That's the tweet. Glad to hear. You know, it's very exciting here. Like what's kind of exciting for me, I was thinking as I was drinking coffee here, like this kind of, like, think of the wealth we have here in terms of art, like just from a personal perspective. I'm amazed I can show up here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I can show you a whole bunch of provocative, interesting, fascinating, what I'd consider cutting edge artworks. And it's like, the real challenge is keeping the show under an hour. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, like it's quite interesting. And when you just go, like, again, when I go out in public to IRL events, there are shows, like I was at a great one on Wednesday. There's shows I like. But overall, I'm kind of always like, if I had a preference, these are my favorite art shows, which is kind of interesting, I think, because it's not like I haven't grown up with the tradition, so to speak. So what does that mean? Anyways, I'm glad you're enjoying it. This was a very interesting article here, ArtNet. Ancient tombs older than Egypt's pyramids emerge in Poland. And I thought there was almost like a loose analogy we could make with the blockchain here. So there's these 5,500-year-old pyramids were used to bury high-status individuals. And where was this? The Neolithic Age, which is maybe something of a misnomer. Falsely offering stone rather than perishable wood is the period's primary building material. And I don't even know if I would agree with this. Actually, stone tools were used from really... How old is tool making? Like, I think we can go back to 1.75 million years ago. Before present, I think is how they would put it. So I'm not sure, really in the Neolithic Age, which is considered 10,000 BC to maybe 4,000 BC, that's like more agriculture, I would argue, is the main thing, not stone. And I mean, you get the Copper Age around 5,500 BC. And then, of course, then you get the, Then you get the Bronze Age. And then you also get the Iron Age around 1400 BC. All to say, I think they're looking at the lithic as stone, and so they're going, but what it means is the new Stone Age. Maybe something of a misnomer, falsely offering stone rather than perishable wood as the period's primary building material. I'm not sure this, I don't know who this is, Richard Whittington, anyways, journalist on ArtNet. But its monumental architecture sure make a compelling counterpoint. England has massive stone circles, France rows of upright megaliths, in Poland, somewhat less famously, pyramids. So was this in Poland? I mean, we just read a paragraph. Okay, it is in northwest Poland. Now, we don't have any real images of the structure other than this, but it kind of is interesting. Right, because we think of how famous the ancient Egyptian pyramids are. So why are the ancient Egyptian pyramids more famous than the 5,500-year-old pyramids here in Poland? And it's a very simple answer. One has been visible the entire time, and the other has been buried, right, by earth, and maybe it wasn't as tall, and maybe the environment. But it kind of made me think, like, are there analogies we can make with the blockchain in the sense of, 5,000 years from now, should the human species continue to propagate, being in the stars, I'm kind of back to Bitcoin. Like, is it better to be on Bitcoin than IPFS at the end of the day? So that's kind of what I was thinking. Kind of a big find here, but it was interesting. They're moving 10-ton stones, arranging monuments in some cases. So moving 10-ton stones, which is interesting. We tend to underappreciate how kind of sophisticated, again, this is 55. This is actually the start of the Copper Age. Interestingly, although there's probably no copper being mined, so to speak, and refined, more importantly, in Poland at that time. Anyways, just kind of an interesting article. Strange thing, attention art collectors and friends. The new UK online safety rules land on Friday, so today, the 25th of July, and X has been told to enable strict 18-plus age verification processes. So in the UK, if you're over 18, I think you have to verify. If the system ends up demanding government-issued ID, I can't comply. My anonymity is not negotiable as an artist, even though I'm over 18 years of age. So maybe under the guise of being 18 plus to prove that you're over 18. So you may see me you may see me go quiet here for a bit until I know more and I can try to work something out. Interesting. So a PSA, public service announcement from Strange Thing, on this interesting legislation, which it seems like they're trying to out the anonymous accounts under the guise of age verification, doesn't it? If you don't see any posts by Monday or abruptly stop in the near future, not sure when X will implement, you know I'm in a sticky situation. So here you can bookmark Strange Thing site and blog, follow me on Farcaster, and DM Strange Thing for any, Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, and Foundation Objekt Super Rare. So interesting. Sign up to, has a Substack. Cool. I'll have to check that out. I'm curious to see what Strange Thing is doing. Anyways, there is Strange Thing. Just an awesome AI artist. Don't see enough work from Strange Thing, but it sounds like something was coming this fall. Cosmo de Medici, networked digital objects. So interesting. So this digital object terminology, which we've discussed here over, here's another interesting story. So I met up with an art gallery here, and they wanted to know about what I was working on as far as digital, how it all worked. And they're like, oh, NFTs. Isn't that a scam? Someone who has been in the gallery scene, has a gallery, and really the first thing that they said is, isn't that a scam? And so again, another reason to get away from the NFT word, because then I went out to the gallery later that day, to the show, the exhibition. I was telling my friends about this, and they're like, well, yeah, it is a scam though, isn't it? And saying genuinely, not out of hostility. And one of them was actually like, oh, can you show me how it works? So it's not like, because they need to bring in some extra money so that the German government recognizes that they're making and selling art in order to stay in the country, right? So they're like, oh, this sounds great, right? I'm like, yeah, you could probably bring in some extra cash and show that you're selling works, etc. But that person was like, at the start of the conversation, it's like, I thought that was a scam. So there's a long way to go. All to say, digital objects makes a lot more sense, as we've discussed on this show many moons ago. So it'll be interesting to see if NFT, it's got a terrible association. And the final part from the gallerist, in her defense, how many people on Instagram all of us have probably received messages saying, hey, I want to buy your NFTs, and it's a scam. So that doesn't help either. So I really think from a PR perspective, I think it just has to be moved on, the term. I think you just got to go digital objects, digital art piece, So let's continue. Zora, if you're contributing to a platform, you should have the ability to start earning right away. So it's interesting. So Zora, again, we're hearing, I think it's going to be fascinating to see if this actually works. Because I'll be the first to say, well, I was wrong. But what I'm amazed at, here we are over a year later from when they've been trying to coinify social media posts and coinify anything and everything. I'll give them one thing. They're persistent. And that's worth something. So maybe they're able to persist their way. But really, the best way to earn money from contributing to a platform is really being able to list your own price. Right? Like you can on Objkt. Put it this way. The argument here that Zora is making is if you want to make money, you should be posting on our platform. Right? If you're contributing to a platform, you should have the ability to start earning money. Right? Right away. But the reality is, as an artist, I would argue, feel free to disagree with me, is if you actually want to make money, and I'm multi-chain, but really you should probably start on Objkt. And I'd probably, at the end of the day, my preference is to put my work on Bitcoin. But that doesn't work for all work because of the costs, and the costs are getting more expensive, etc. So really, if you want to make money, this argument here, you actually go to Objkt as an artist. If you want to sell your tweets and see if you can get any money for it, maybe you should go to Zora, your posts. But other than that, if you're selling art, that's where you should start. Is probably Objkt. Anyways, let's continue. Charles AI, too many artists downplay the role of their work ethic, constantly attributing success to luck or being blessed. That narrative helps no one. That is an interesting point. Yeah, how I would frame it is, I think you need a kernel of talent. It doesn't need to be much, I would actually argue. But you do need some kind of sense visually or whatever domain you're going in, whether it's writing, art, music. You do need a core, for lack of a better term, I'd call it judgment. You have to have some kind of sense of what, and that can be developed. But after that, I completely agree. It's all about work. And you can have an artist that's not as talented as another artist, but works way harder and can actually make better art. So I do agree that work ethic, it's crucial. You are competing against the best in the world. You have to think this way when you're making art. So you have to basically outwork them at the minimum. James Brown, the hardest working man in show business, as he always would open the shows with, or that the announcers would open the show as James Brown took the stage. What message does it send to emerging artists to keep hearing that no amount of effort matters if luck isn't on their side? If you really want to help, and I'd say another thing that artists can do is actually, I think one of the issues, I heard John in the interview that I did with John Bizold, he used a perfect word, I think, that I think characterizes how a lot of people perceive digital art, which he said, and I was describing how, you can go to a homepage on, or just open new releases on Objkt, and you can just be kind of overwhelmed and kind of not be overly impressed by what you see. As he said, it can often seem kind of garish, which I think is the perfect word, and I think that's what a lot of curators like in the traditional kind of contemporary art scene, when you say digital, they think bad taste, garish. And because it's a new medium, etc. So I think really the solve for that is really education, because the more art history education you have, it's a way of refining your taste. You're basically refining your taste or cutting, your taste among the best, one could argue, the works that we've decided to remember. So you're really refining your taste. So if you want to refine your taste, which is actually crucial, that's another reason to study. Pardon the little mini fruit fly here. That's one of the reasons to study art history. It's crucial in that respect. So all to say, if you really want to help, share your process. How do you reach collectors, pitch to galleries, use platforms? How do you do it? Which is interesting. I wouldn't share too much of your process. I know there's a debate and it's like, oh, you should show. I don't trust anybody anymore. I don't trust anyone. And the people, who I trust? If I trust anybody, and I don't trust anybody 100% anymore, is artists. Artists who have built something great because they have nothing to prove. Those people are usually the most trustworthy people you're ever going to find. But I would not share your process. I would not, actually. And maybe that's controversial. But I would not share your process. Some people are like, oh, isn't that... Like, if you're using AI, perhaps, right? Maybe AI, I think maybe there's an argument that could be made there. I share it on AI, but otherwise you're just going to have the League of Happy Copiers, the League of Extraordinary Copiers are going to follow you if you actually end up doing something interesting. So I would not share your process. Maybe share some works in progress, but I wouldn't go too far. But that's just my take on it. I think you really have to be careful there. Physical work, it's different. And we're going to actually discuss this more, actually, in a couple of tweets, which is actually quite interesting. Physical, it's different because people don't necessarily see what kind of brush you're using, which is actually super crucial. They're not seeing the medium that you're maybe putting in your paint or how you get that painterly texture, which is crucial, right? So you can just be painting away and it's like, oh, they don't necessarily see, every little thing. Sometimes you can. I mean, it depends on the situation, but all to say, anyways, let's continue. Eli Scheinman. I'd love to see more artists use a separate minting contract for works in progress, notes, sketches, photographs. So kind of echoing Hen Collector and other material that documents their practice, none of it intended for sale, but forever on chain. Yeah, interesting. I mean, in a sense, that was what rodeo was supposed to be. But then so it's kind of interesting. I guess what you could do is start a collection on Objkt, for example, is not a bad option. As far as Ethereum, I mean, do you put it on base? Again, we're kind of back to that layer 2. I'm not sure how you do it, but nevertheless, I think this is really interesting. And actually, I would say, although maybe it's not intended for sale, maybe eventually it does go for sale. It's kind of back to this notion. Like, I don't even, it's a dilemma, the digital artist's dilemma, where, you could say, you know what, these colors make a cool version, this makes a cool version, this makes a cool version. You can make like 100 different, or 15, 20 different versions. And then what does it mean? You have your main version that you mint here. Maybe you do put it on a layer 2 just so that collectors feel comfortable buying the main version. I don't know. So it's interesting. It's kind of funny how there's no obvious answer here on where to put it. Here is the tweet I was mentioning before, Eco33. The painter chooses a brush. The generative artist designs the brush, the paint, the canvas, and the physics. So I actually totally disagree with this, but interesting view, and happy to share it here. And it's a thoughtful tweet. But the reality is when you're dealing with professionals, like professional painters, they are completely thinking about the brush, as Eco33 mentions. They have their chemical magic cauldron for the paint. You think they're using student paint there, or just not worrying about mediums and everything? They are worrying about the canvas. Like, I mean, if you see a Julian Schnabel's show, for example, he has these like pink tarps, really, that have been bleached in the sun for, maybe I can bring those up, for, a couple of weeks. Julian Schnabel, let's try pink tarps. Are these... And there'll be all sorts of, tarp paintings. And so this underneath, it's kind of cut together. And like you can't really see it here. But let me actually bring it up larger so you have a clue. This stuff, this is like the wind it's been like sewed together, and it's probably been out bleached in the sun for 2 weeks. Okay, so physical painters of note are thinking about the canvas, so look at how great this work is, by the way. Julian Schnabel, very, very interesting artist. And again, what would this painting be without the tarp, like without the canvas being completely thought through, right? And the tarp paintings, great artists there. Julian Schnabel, super interesting. Another artist whose later work is, I would argue, I wouldn't say exclusively, but is far more interesting to me than, say, the plates and the earlier work, which just seem very kind of gimmicky in the 80s, but it probably fit the moment. But now, fascinating artists. I've met a couple of times, sometimes here in Berlin, Peter the Roman, digital and physical versions. So this is interesting, something we've been discussing with Peter the Roman, these wonderful images that are made with AI, basically pictures of sculptures, but that is kind of where it ends, or does it? Here is, I believe, a physical version, digital and physical version, so it's getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere, as Super Chief Gallery was saying. Was hoping to see this be the direction. Ever look into 3D printing ceramics? So, as you see here, so this looks like the physical. So, this is how it starts. This is how it starts, because imagine making those works and putting them in a physical gallery would be sensational. This is also fascinating. Jeremy Austin in the Artist Journal community. This is my first SVG. So over here. Now this is fascinating. Loaded with various animations and file types. A whole new way to create art. Some of the frame sequencing using randomized functions. So the artwork is not a loop. It is eternal. View the SVG via Objkt link in the comments below. And then there is audio too. So all to say, this is interesting. Randomness. So, because the GIF, in a sense, it looks like it can do the same thing a GIF can do, but with randomness. So big discovery here, or observation at least, from Jeremy Austin. Thank you for sharing. Very nice. Very interesting. Skamra, two new works today as I visited a turning point in my art from 2023. So here we see the development. You know what's kind of funny though? It's all here. In the early, I assume this is the earlier work, right? It looks like the earlier work from 2023. It's kind of all here. It's just got like much more in-depth and complicated textures now in the current work, which I believe is the first cat. Nicholas Dietrich, change palette again, work in progress. It's kind of interesting how these different colors all work. And again, if I understand correctly, what Nicholas Dietrich is doing here, quite conceptually interesting, is taking two colors and then changing the opacity on the purple. So that's why you're getting a darker purple here, and why it kind of perfectly harmonizes, or perfectly works together. Cap'n Red Core, first of the RGB series, part of the Cap'n Space Exploration Program. So as we saw with Walk, Cap'n is experimenting with coins airdropped to 97 wallets that revealed with 10 million void in Reveal Cam Fun. So not sure what that is. With Snapshot July 23rd, reveal the green core and get it airdrop next week. Holders of RGB will get the RGB core. So playing with the crypto, at least here, there seems to be a value in holding the coins. I mean, that's another model, right? Where it's basically a subscription model where you go, okay, if you hold my coins and you hold 10 million of these coins, you're going to get airdrops every month. Let's say 3 airdrops a month or maybe more. That is another way of giving actual value to these coins. Anyways, beautiful. Love the red and black here. Minimals, quite interesting to see how effective it is, as we saw with the Nicholas Dietrich. Rinnyfish, hot July vibes. Cool display here. And kind of an interesting workaround of the 9x16, isn't it? So very nice work here. Nice display. Nice room. Where is this? Silicon, the new creator, a digital art exhibition at Tang Contemporary Art in Beijing. Silicon, the new creator. Looks like a great show. Let's take a quick look here. And so congrats to Rinnyfish for appearing in this show. Very cool. Warehouse, so here, doing a kind of a smaller pirate projection here. Kind of reminds you of the Keith Haring that we were seeing discussed. I'd go bigger. I would go really big. It's almost a little too perfect here in this little area. Maybe it's tricky. Maybe you need more powerful lights. Anyways, looks cool. It looks like Pamela Chirone, doesn't it? Look at this brilliant series by Dan Control. Crocs. Look at this gorgeousness. Look, and Crocs are back in. Shockingly, I remember wearing Crocs on a date 20 years ago. Maybe it was like 15 years ago. When was that? I was in Toronto, 2014, let's call it. I never lived it down. That was like a legendary thing. Pocobelli wore Crocs on date. I haven't even wore them really since. I was traumatized. Then I hear, like last year, that they're in style. Hilariously, nice pink Crocs. Look at the colors here. Look at the concept. Look at actually the execution on the Crocs here. Let's see if we can bring it up. So just gorgeous color here. Gorgeous. The perfect blue in the background. So wonderful piece by Dan Control. These are on Foundation, 0.07 ETH starting bid, open brackets. So a safety pin, as we would say. And so we'll see if it loads up here. Here it is. So here you see an open safety pin. That same blue, and here you see a closed safety pin. It looks like it's been inverted. It's kind of a cool, kind of simple concept there. They'd probably go really well together. Again, nice and clean from a conceptual point of view. Here you have what looks like some Virgin Mary statues here. We pray to the internet gods here. Maybe we won't open each one because we have. So here's some cool Virgin Mary statues. Interesting choice. Madonnine, so maybe plural of Madonna, not sure. Beware, so here's some plastic toy soldiers. Cool, very cool, topical. Casio's, some retro tech. These look great, don't they? Just gorgeous works here from Dan Control, and maybe we'll just let that be. And then some ticket stubs, so I don't forget. So just really cool work here. Looks like cylindrical, almost looking like oil barrels. Again, kind of topical. Rad series. There's a few others. That's on Foundation. Juana Pedro, a couple of works here. Hit that G norm, edition of 10. So continuing to put out quite a bit of work here as we see some more interesting abstracts from Juana Pedro. Here's another one with kind of a night arrow with kind of a animal looking figure here. Almost looks like Northern Lights in the colors here. So another cool work. Look at the sky. I believe AI is involved here, but I'm not positive. Let's continue. Greg Nikshumika, a house that Greg built. So another work in this new, I can't remember if he called it digital fauvism. Not sure. But anyways, the spreadsheet series. Let's look at what it's called. Fauve Office Minimalism. Where's the fauve? I'm not sure. Interesting, but all to say, post-dial-up minimalist figurative art. So maybe just having fun, actually, with the terminology. Monument by Royksop featuring Robin. I picked one of these up. These are gorgeous. I think I got the last one. Look at this work here. This is fantastic. It looks like a desktop with an image wound inside. Even see some tabs here. Gorgeous textures, fabulous AI artwork from Scamra, Stable Diffusion, and here's another one by Scamra. Kind of a dancer. And so, yeah, very nice work as usual from Scamra. Great textures, Kazuhiro Ehira Odile. So some very interesting, hard to tell if these are physical or digital, isn't it? I think they're digital. But you see the clue for me is right here in that blue. Here it's a tougher call. It may be a hybrid. We may be looking at a hybrid of digital and physical. Because this, like, unless you have very good digital tools, and it's getting harder and harder to tell. What's interesting about this, finally, is if it is a hybrid, not only do you have physical painting, but yes, you also have photography involved in this mix here, if it is, in fact, because this looks pretty physical. If that's digital, that's really impressive, and it wouldn't shock me anymore. It's getting harder and harder to tell. Here's another one, Lala. Oh, it is. So this says digital painting. Let's see if the other one says digital painting. It does. This is probably digital. I mean, that is amazing. That is amazing. Let's continue. Lala, edition of 1. And this is probably just a similar brush. So the digital painting tools continue to totally impress. And it doesn't necessarily 100% mean there's no physical, but I have a feeling this is all digital. So cool work by Kazuhiro Ehira, edition of 1. Here's The Myth, who of course I follow. Cool, kind of minimal work here. Red, white, and black with some myth figures. Very cool. Here is Prince of Darkness, Rest in Peace, Ozzy. So there is Ozzy Osbourne, and maybe a younger Ozzy Osbourne with some Polaroid glasses and some wings there, and who just passed away. So beautiful digital painting, a beautiful homage. Here's Lily Illo centering. Some very beautiful AI artwork here from Lily Illo, raw AI, kind of trademark. AI distortions in the hands and the missing body and everything, and these great eyes. Beautiful work there. And remember, printed those works on wood. Some of those works, fabulous. Hunters of Broken Dreams. This is Moda MT edition of 10 for 25 Tezos. So great to see another kind of very just genuine artwork here. Cool portrait from Moda MT, cigarette, nice green dialed watch, and the dog. Digital painting, but you see again how convincing the brushes are. And that is on Objkt. Here is One Don't Knows. This is on Super Rare. New collage. So came back with a splash just like a couple of weeks ago, and now has new work, I believe, and this was posted July 17th. So nice new work here, and I guess it has to reload. We'll let that go. Here is Bosque Gracias. Fabulous work, Dance, Swim, Cry, or Not. Look at that. Look at that. So gorgeous combination of old photography. Maybe that's some sort of archaeological site. Can we tell what it is? Is this, I don't think it's the Parthenon. I don't think so, but you see this little structure beside, and sometimes you wonder, I wonder where that is. Maybe it says. This is fabulous, though. Beautiful juxtaposition. We don't have, so a collage here from Bosque Gracias, edition of 15 for 7 Tezos. Here, 1,000 Lands, Tezos Airlines, the work we were discussing earlier. Fabulous textures here. And there you see the Tezos logo put on the Tezos plane. So fabulous work here, part of the Legroom series, edition of 1 and unlisted. Here, I was trying to figure out who this was. Acréon, l'orgueil et la consolateur des faibles. So, l'orgueil, what does that mean? Is the consolation of the weak. Interesting, I think. Here, a digital painting. Again, they're getting pretty amazing here when you look at the bottom kind of painterliness, the background. Nice variation here, too. Again, when you make a whole bunch of different works, you'll get different compositions like this. Love the tree trunks here. Just gorgeous. Edition of 15 and sold out. Look at that. Sold out at 4 Tezos, I believe, and then some at 5. And continuing on, Jake Studios, they don't know I'm minting on Tezos. And so that's hilarious. Sometimes I feel this way when I'm at a art opening and nobody knows what the hell I'm doing. Sometimes I feel like that guy there in the corner. So they're a drone on an eyeball, I think, and trademark upside down pixelated clouds. Cool take. Nice kind of, remake, and even the Windows icon there as a tattoo is pretty cool. Why, for all the tattoos out there, why don't we see this one? That's pretty cool. So all to say, in the box on the head, cool work from Jake Studios. That's an Objkt. A Detour into the Unknown. This is Seba Sestaro, edition of 10 for 14 Tezos. As you see here, kind of trademark colors, and there, almost this invisible line separating the planes, or separating the figure here, covering the figure. Cool kind of combination of abstract and illustration. Again, kind of a surreal illustrator, psychological illustrations. MCHX, I'm not sure if this is a new one or not, but it's looking pretty good, isn't it? These abstractions. And here is Nikita. And I think I saw, maybe Time picked one of these up. These look like AI, if I had to guess. So cool AI paintings here. Quite convincing as physicals, aren't they? Here's another one from Nikita, and this just came out. And as you see, pretty sure that's AI, but pretty cool, isn't it? These AI paintings. Impressive. Full. This is Oblivion Fields. Cool textures here. Pretty original, frankly. What's going on here? This mix of pixelation and these different textures here. Kind of maybe a fill. Who knows? Looking pretty cool and looking like a horse. Very nice. Almost has a Giacometti kind of feel to it. This is part of Art Commission's Glitch Edition. Glitch exhibition at auction for 50 Tezos. Here's Gons. Primordial Site Assets. So interesting kind of abstract AI, has a different feeling to it. Here you see a little bit of color. So I think this is this Gons? It is Gons. This is Gons, edition of 12, sold out at 3 Tezos. Interesting piece. Here is Time, bad album. So kind of a different take here. As I risk opening this huge file up, as you see here, everything kind of vectorized, seemingly. And then even into circles there, interestingly. So cool composition from Time, edition of 1. Here's Strano, who of course I follow. Intuition is better than sensing. Cool combination of pixelation, kind of minimal work. Love the gray background actually, which actually makes the piece. Even the white frame, the white margin. Interestingly, here's Denairis, EXP19. Cool kind of video, experimental, abstract work here. Could hang well with Kiro, actually. Edition of 10 for 4 Tezos. This is Bite by Bit.
Turn, stay, sit, wait.
Dream. Picked up by Haiti Rocket. Pretty fun. I can't remember which. I think this Kid Pix.
Tree turn, stay, sit, wake.
2010 Kid Pix 3D. So their cool work by Byte by Bit, edition of 1. Here's Louis inside art, and let's see if this plays. Here it is. Interesting audio track here. You barely hear it. There it is. So interesting piece here by Louis. A lot going on, as it says in the description. So cool work there. And let's continue. Here's Canex Zapata, another kind of experimental work here. Caminandos por futuros aún no sonadas. So not sure what that says. Kind of a weird, unusual looking work here. So cool experimentation over here. From Canex Zapata, looking like a fuzzed out soldier, edition of 1 for 50 Tezos. Here's Estelle Flores, picked up by 1,000 lands. Another figure from The Sims. Love that mouth. Almost Warholian, actually. Fabulous work here. Edition of 1, selling for a mere 30 Tezos. Here is Murakit. Now, we have a couple of them. I think this one I haven't shown. Keyboards never get old. Just great. Nice music, too. Kind of sounds like a DX7, actually. If I had to guess, the bell. Let's see this one. Not sure. Maybe it's a newer synth. So, really cool series. Forgive the internet. So, great to see Murakit on Objkt here, keeping things fresh. Here is Zofio Gore, .rom carnival iterante visita. So here, cool work here. And I think it's like a game. Can I make this bigger? I can. Phew. And then maybe I'll do this. Yeah, okay. So as you see here, pretty experimental artwork here, kind of using HTML, I think, and shifting the backgrounds. This is a solution for what I sometimes call the digital artist dilemma. Oh, you have like 5 different backgrounds? Well, you know what? You can put them all in one piece. And then it kind of makes a commentary, doesn't it? Super interesting work from Zofie Ogor, and an offer coming in at 180 Tezos. Pretty good. Here is Ed Woods, the Beer Hunter. And so I love this piece by Ed Woods. So kind of almost looking like a Rambo type figure. Very nice execution here. Not sure if that's based on a poster or what. Cheers. Very cool. Art Presti Selfix number 2. Very cool work here from Art Presti. Of course, we know the pixel art abstracts. This is great, by the way. This is truly interesting, and because of the pixelation, this is probably fairly low file size, interestingly. Very nice piece. Edition of 1 for 25 Tezos. Here's Jean Provencher. Here, so interesting piece, just posted on X. Nice response, cool colors, and just cool concept. Elemently mints. Elemently has minted again on Tezos after a bit of a, I guess had a work not too long ago, maybe a month ago, but hadn't been posting too much, so fabulous to see this. Of course, we started the show the other day, and thank you for sending me to. Congratulations on selling out. Hopefully we see a bunch more from Elemently. And here are some other works. Flow and Discrete, the re-enchantment of digital media. So again, super interesting. So here's one version, and this is probably Flow. I assume this is Discrete, but who knows? So keeping it interesting. Elemently, here's another one, Digital Painting Corner. Almost looking like a pyramid here. And then different colors. The digital artist dilemma here, as I like to call it. Let's continue. Karim Safa. So new work here. Playing with looks like kind of pixel art abstraction. Animated pixel art abstraction. If we want to put some words on it, 216 by 216. Again, this would fit beautifully on Bitcoin. get in while you can. As far as like, it's getting pretty expensive there. I haven't looked at the fees. Shall we look quickly? Shall we look at the fees and see what's going on here? Now's your chance. If you want to mint on Bitcoin, now is your chance. You're at basically rock bottom fees, because if this thing goes up to, it's going to get too expensive really quickly. And if people start using Bitcoin as more of an OS, like where it starts to do things like DeFi, like, so this is the window to put your art in. Shadow of the Prize, Gogolitis, edition of 1. So playing with the pixel art factory and the boxes, some tropes from earlier works, new colors here with newer colors, fun piece here for a Arts Carnival Darmus exhibition. The Antechamber of the Great Mystery, this is Renato Marini, and cool work here. I mean, this is, I guess we could call this pixel art, right? There's whatever's going on at the top here, almost like curtains, almost like Magritte, David Lynch-esque curtains, red curtains there. Cool piece. Here's Haiti Rocket, edition of 6, now available on secondary for 99 Tezos, my computer. And some icons in there, 420 bytes, 7 objects. And here's Figments, server 3. And we see a server in the middle there and everything. So, yeah, so cool work there. Part of that series from Figments, who is also Cap'n. Continuing on, this is max capacity going on Zero Unbound. I've never been on this website before today. Pretty cool. We'll actually look at the homepage. So this is where people mint on-chain, if I'm not mistaken. So it's looking pretty cool. I actually love the design here. Yeah, look, fully on-chain Tezos NFT Studio. Great, fully on-chain. So cool. I guess I have it bookmarked here. Create collection, manage collection. So how cool is this? So this is where you mint on-chain for Tezos. Speaking of which, this is Tornado Rodriguez. So life has ups and downs. Wait till you see the series she put together for the Pocobelli collection. So that should go up about, we're planning for a week from Monday, but we're just checking into the on-chain minting. And if on-chain mints can be added to a gallery on Objkt. I don't know. I sent an email. I haven't heard back. Maybe they're on vacation. The dev there working on the galleries. Anyways, cool work. Look at a small, delightfully small work here from looking like someone going down a roller coaster. Keeping with the pixel art, PNG stored on chain, edition of 10 for $8.75 now on secondary. I believe it is on secondary. Selling it for a song. They're at $3.50. Here is Walk. Is this picked up by Julian? Picked it up for 10 Tezos. So still opportunities here to pick up some one-of-one walks. If you have the patience, you can kind of sneak in at the end. And of course, I follow Walk. This is like, I need to bring this into Photoshop one day and then expand it so we actually see what it should look like. I mean, this is one way of, and there's actually open to interpretation of how it should be presented. This is if you just stretch it out. We could also go into Photoshop and do nearest neighbor and take a look. Is there an accurate, which is the real kind of representation? We're almost, this, I guess it's this one, right? And then you can interpret it how you want in large form. Here's another one, Emotional Graphics is a series, and this one is 5 Tezos, Julian, and there are 3 hours to go, so you may be able to get it. Austin created, so cool, I believe this is on-chain as well. I don't know if the walkworks are. I don't know if those are, but these definitely are 100% on-chain. Make until it's made, and that is Austin, and that's sold, or just transferred to Rosatio, edition of 1. Here's Green Ginger, also on-chain. Interestingly, The Forgotten History, edition of 20. Cool work here, almost looking like Underwater City. And so is this all part of a show, Zero Contract Artist Studio, Art's Not Dead? Okay, so I think part of this larger show here. We're already over the hour mark. Yeah, okay, I do remember this. I'm actually gonna, well, here, I'll scan through and yeah, there's that work by Austin, I think, that we were looking at. Edgy work by Martin Joe. It's quite a huge show, actually. There's those Kyle Flemmer. I didn't realize those are on chain. Very cool. Pamela Chirone, Run. So again, out of Argentina, another kind of classic Tezos artist. A lot of fun, their work, and very prolific. Here's Françoise Gamma with a cool kind of pixel abstract, pixelated abstract here, animated. Pixelated animated abstract. Canexapida here is, what is this, Cloven? Not sure. And again, looking like an anime figure put into the Python script and the cellular automata, as it says here, with a dither extracting color process. We went to the store today. So another interesting piece by Canexapida, looking like some sort of AI mid-journey video. Here's No Hygiene, I forgot. So cool piece here. Wow. Edgy work here. Might have to keep going in case of the censors on that one. No Hygiene, keeping things interesting. I didn't notice that at first. Acid Boy, Laboratory times 12. This is on Rodeo. And a very wild piece here. 104 minted on Rodeo. Here's Feels on X. Cool animated abstract here. 108,000 views, 1.3 thousand retweets. Congrats. Nice work by Feels. Here's Lena Eckhart. And not sure if this has been minted anywhere. And we'll just go full screen here. Kind of looks like it could fit on a TV here. Animated kind of video abstract. And here's Renki, Higashi no Shiro. And kind of a different feel. I don't think this is the Judd series. It is, actually. So it is part of the Judd series. Here's another one. So almost inverted colors here. Or the reverse colors. Cool work there. And here, Nukazawa. This is pretty rad. We may have seen this one. I'm not sure. Love the red and black there and love the concept. Continuing on, here is Nebular, Eventide. Cool video art piece here. Analog video glitch from Nebular. Cool colors. This was pretty cool too. Jacob the Ape. See if it plays. I may have to reduce the video content on this. Anyways, this is Little Cakes. Because until my computer situation is better, because keep on running out of memory. I just barely saved my previous, this is a great piece, my previous work. I just hit stop immediately and luckily saved the file. So all to say, here's Little Cakes. Pretty cool AI video, kind of fun piece with the hearts there, cool colors, created using mprops, Loom Array, and Runway for editing. So very AI-oriented work here. That is an edition of 13 for 30 Tezos. And how are we doing here? Making some nice sales. Sorry, 10 Tezos each. I believe sold out now on secondary for 30. Here's Peter the Roman. So as we saw earlier, a picture of a sculpture. But we don't have the final, but the real, so-called real sculpture probably doesn't exist. But we started to see experiments in that regard earlier in the show. This was cool. So Herms, Heavy Eye Studio, thrilled to share Racing Realms, a new series of Herms windows, created in collaboration with the ever-inventive Donnie O'Donnell, inspired by A Day at the Races. So how cool is this? We've been looking at this artist. And so I think this is a sign of the times. You have Herms saying, do you want to decorate our window? Probably, headhunted or found on social media. And, Donnie O'Donnell has a big audience. But it's not like, I think it's 60,000. I brought it up here a second ago. Excuse me. I brought it up here a second ago. It's not showing, maybe the internet is failing. We're going to have to keep going, but it's something like 60,000. So all very interesting because Herms can probably go, you know what? This looks better than some agency that we get to set up our window display for us. We can pay them $25,000 to $50,000 and probably still save a whole bunch of money. Let's do that. And then we're being kind of cool. We're investing in smaller, quote unquote, smaller artists. I mean, 60,000 followers is not nothing, but so I'll say interesting. Camito Art Center. These were pretty cool. I'm not sure if we looked at these. So acrylic on canvas. Are these paintings? That would be pretty impressive. So here we go. Wow. I thought these were collage, but they probably started as collage and maybe using a projector. Look at that. Super interesting work here. Now, the Comito Art Center, props, but this looks like the original, doesn't it? This looks like what it's based on. How interesting. So they put both. Super interesting work. There's Hulkamania by Nugget Brain. So, of course, the Hulk Hogan passing away there. So a classic painting there. A couple of classic paintings. Look at the cat. Love that person. Love Nugget Brain's work. Here's Paul Eluard. Eduard, I'm not sure. Tornado Rodriguez sent me a couple of these. Maybe it's Blade 3. I'm not sure. This is pretty rad, though. Beautiful artwork. I think that's Tornado. I'm not sure. Davor Gromilovic. Cool work here of a grasshopper and an ant. Love the sky, actually. Here is Ochiai Shohei, Summer Pocari Sweat. So a water bottle, and love this piece here. Philip Jenneke. Fabulous tennis painting. Love the Rolex, all of it. It just looks fabulous. I think people would love to look at these beautiful artworks here. I'm sure these sell quite well. I'm not sure how many followers here. 112,000. Okay, so pretty big. That is impressive. I'm sure it just sells everything. These are nice paintings, so all very, very interesting. Here is Frederico Brauer. Grateful for the experience of the exhibition Matthew Wong, Vincent van Gogh at Albertina Museum. So I believe this is the same gallery that shows Nugget Brain, interestingly. So interesting gallery there, I believe out of Copenhagen. Here's Die with the Most Likes, Going Nowhere. Fabulous. The painting continues to evolve and get just very impressive. Looking great. From Die with the Most Likes, that's your show, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Until next time, take care.